Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Diayanu, Bukhair Agale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washmale. Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Boyo, Privyet, Kaifa Hal, Halishuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Fabio, Bali Kareaya, Hosh Galden and Ayosayo, Huyamora, Chivatochi, Haljut, Kalimera, Khairuttan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Haja, Assalamu Alaikum, kaisi hai aap?
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah Khair, for introducing me, Shahzad. So I was going through my Insta feed and I came across a very interesting piece of news, and it talked about how there was a nuclear disaster in Chernobyl in Russia, where there was a nuclear leakage and it caused a lot of damage. But now they've found that there are certain dogs who have sort of a wolf-like qualities. I don't know what do you call that breed. Maybe if you can help me
Husky?
out. Maybe, yes. So they have developed some sort of a mutant resistant cells that can combat the cancer out there.
Really?
And that was a very interesting research to share out there, because we can see that how nature plays out there, and we find and we think that, you know, if we are doing something and it can become as wholly disastrous, but it's just that how everything is so much connected, everything is working in the synergy, everything has a purpose to serve in this universe, be it even so non-living things. So for example, like a mountains or even a stone, which we think that do not have a purpose, but they all already have a purpose in this entire universe, and in the grander scheme of things of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are perfectly playing their part. And I came across this verse in Quran that that the terror of Allah was so much when he wanted to designate the vice regency to the earth, to the mountains, that they started shivering, and they were shivered and they refused to accept that vice regency. But Allah said that since man was ignorant and arrogant, he accepted that vice regency of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that shows us that mountains are also living beings, and they are constantly engaged in the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are constantly serving their purpose on this earth, on this planet earth. And it's beautiful how nature is playing its part, and constantly we see the signs of the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything out there.
Exactly, and you know, it is for anybody, you know, who's out there, you know, for you to observe, to sit down, to take out time, to be with yourself, you know, so that you get that sense of or essence of spirituality as well. But since you brought a breaking news for each and every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, there is another breakthrough. You know, when now
breakthrough research, I would say.
So now I'm going to move on to technology, where you know, Detroit now, you know, it happens to be a place in the United States of America where they've officially opened up their first ever charging lane. So imagine that we do know that there are a lot of electric cars out there now, even in Pakistan. You know, so imagine from Islamabad till Lahore, it's really easy to be on your electric car, because you can charge them on Bhera station as well. So imagine that you're driving a car, and while you're driving the car, it's being charged as well. Wow, it's wonderful. I don't think that, you know, that if I'll need a charge and somebody else is going to overtake me, that I will actually give them space, because I'll be like, man, come on, you know, my battery's too low, I cannot really change my lane. So I think more of those lanes as well. And just in addition to this, because the last time when I was in United Kingdom, you know, they were even planning to move on to smart motorways as well, because we do see now autopilot features, you know, in cars as well. So I think that we really need to be, you know, it's wishful thinking, but we really need to be in line with that, because I'm a car guy. You know, I love wheels, horses, anything which you can drive right, ladies and gentlemen, is something which I've always been in love with. So imagine that, you know, having motorways over here which have like a charging lane. I think it's going to be great. Imagine that without fuel, that you're traveling and your car's being charged while you're driving is something which is magnificent. Never thought about it.
Right, that's wonderful, and we have certainly seen that transition. I've never had the opportunity to even observe an electric car. I don't know if you
no
have
engine at all, you know, so that's it. No engine at all, you know, the boot's empty, the trunk's empty, you know, so everything's empty, you know, even the bonnet.
But you are driving yourself,
there's
right?
Nothing, there's just a battery, you know, right under the chassis of the car, and that's it. You just charge it, just like, you know, how we had remote control cars back in those days.
Or maybe mobile, I mean, the way we are charging our mobile batteries.
Yeah, exactly, that's it, you know, so you just plug it in, and that's it, it's being charged.
So do you think in a country like Pakistan, where we're constantly facing energy load shedding, it's possible to have those cars on
you know, I have a counter, you know, I have an answer to that. So now imagine that we do have, you know, gas shortages in the country as well, unfortunately, and now whichever new houses are being built over here in Islamabad, they're not being allowed a gas meter. So imagine that we might not have gas, but we do have people who can bring you gas cylinders every single day. Where are they getting that that gas from? You go to Karachi, there's no water, there's no supply water, but there'll be enough water for people to supply to you in their containers.
Right.
You know, there might not be, you know, enough electricity, but there will still be people who will find out a way to charge your cars.
And I think there's a really proliferation of solar panels. If you see, especially in Islamabad, every other street has at least 2 or 3 houses where you will find the solar panels installed. And number one, they're very cheap. Number two, they are the answer to this electricity load shedding and energy shortages across there. So I think we can also transition or shift towards the clean and green solar energy or energy in general, right? So I think as a nation, we are very resilient because we believe in creating lots of alternatives. And if there's a problem out there, we will certainly have an alternative and we will fix that.
You know, so I would want to kind of speak about it, and let's see, you know, how many can you think about before we indulge into, you know, the kind of topic that we're discussing today. So imagine, garam pani nahi aa raha, rod mangwa lo. You know, so that's one. You know, you go ahead. What is the other one?
Right. So I think if you do not have gas, so far we don't have a gas. So there was a LPG. So my mother is very fixated on that. So we bring that out. So if we do not have electricity, then firstly we used to have UPS, but now we have solar options in terms of the alternative.
Petrol shortage is CNG dalwa lo.
Yes, yes. So I think we are very resilient.
Gas nahi hai, cylinder mangwa lo. Pani nahi hai, container mangwa lo.
Yes. So we are very resilient in terms of that. But now let's move on to our topic of the segment, and let's kickstart our segment because we are going to talk about the political culture of Pakistan particularly, and the political tolerance, because tolerance is a buzzword and we see it around in different discourses, in different literature, in different academia, about political tolerance, about the tolerance between different communities, between interfaith harmony and whatnot, right? So but when we talk about the political tolerance, and I don't believe this is particularly the situation of Pakistan, I believe that it's a worldwide global phenomena. So we have seen because of the social media, we have seen because of the I think the intense digital connection that we have built lots of echo chambers, and because of that, like-minded people like to sit together, like to talk together, and that creates a lot of polarization and lot of fragmentation in our society.
And one of the major reasons of Hajra, that happens to be social media as well, because we do have a lot of keyboard warriors now. Each and every political party, you know, because we are talking about political tolerance today, so the conversation will be incomplete to mention about political parties, how they have their own media cells now, you know, so they have people who, you know, who throughout the day, you know, will obviously be posting about their political party and what they're going to do. That's fine, you know, anybody can do that. Now imagine, but you know, other than our political affiliation, me and Haja, we will come down to a point that, okay, you know, I don't agree with whatever you're suggesting, but I'm going to respect your opinion. Well, when it comes down to your political affiliation, nobody is kind of ready to accept whatever the other person wants. You know, this is something which has actually caused a lot of problems. You go to any wedding, I've seen people fighting over it. And imagine that the bride and the groom are actually looking at people's face and be like, you know, what's happening in a wedding? You know, you go to, unfortunately, a funeral, you know, that's what the people are talking about. So I think that it's going kind of adding to a lot of intolerance.
Right.
What can we do about it? We have a motivational speaker inside the studios with us today. Let's see what he's going to say and how he's going to shape up our, you know, ideology about political tolerance or political patience.
And how does, in this entire equation, the role of social media play? So we would like to, without further monopolizing our conversation, introduce our guest. We are very glad that we have been joined by a motivational speaker. He happens to be the Sadduq Jilani. Assalamu alaikum and thank you so much. Sir, so what's your opinion on that? Do you believe that social media has created those echo chambers which is creating very polarized and fragmented society across the world, not just in Pakistan?
Actually, this is the key, as you said. We are experimenting, or we have been going to a transition where you remember the old political culture was that people go door to door, do their campaigns, you know, make speeches, invite people. But now they just hire a social media team, you know, and then create their own
songs are being produced and then are being
put
played,
a lot of money into it,
exactly.
right?
So this is called social media marketing.
Yes.
Right. So why do you buy something? Because you are convinced through your marketing skills. Right. So there are skills involved into it. The thing is that when you do social media marketing or normal life, normal things, you know, things to purchase, it's fine. But when it comes to politics, that becomes very emotional.
Yes.
Not only in Pakistan,
yes,
but also worldwide. You have seen maybe what happened in US.
I've seen how our overseas Pakistanis react most of the time to our political discussions.
I've been outside the country for 23 years, more than that. The only discussion in every gathering or party or friends meet up is politics.
True.
However, even Indians, they do not say a word. If I am sitting as a Pakistani there, they will not say they have any load shedding. They will not say they have some political problems, anything. India has lot of load shedding problems in the country, but they never, I have never heard saying anybody that they have a problem.
Okay.
Our political culture, our normal culture is that we are so vocal, we are so complainers about our lives,
That's true.
And that you can see everywhere. Now even our media, sorry, I mean, with all due respect, even in Paris, when I was there, I wanted to go to Champs-Élysées after 6 o'clock, and one of my friends said, please don't go into the side streets of Champs-Élysées after 6 p.m.
Right.
In the summer is actually a daytime,
Okay,
sun is
True,
still there.
true.
I said, why? He said, there are people who will snatch and even beat you. But I never saw any news in any newspaper or in media in France or in Europe
But
about
so that does not
you
mean
know?
that it's not happening. Imagine, so in London, the street crime was actually at the highest as well. There was stabbing going on, there was snatching going
yes.
on, but they would never say that. I mean, that's one point.
Exactly,
that
but
we really
one
look
point
at.
I would like
Sure,
to say
sure,
is, just
sure.
to conclude that, how you portray things, those societies and governments have learned that how they can,
Regulate the
spread
conversation.
or control or manipulate the information in a way that does not impact the society in a negative way. However, we could not so far do that, and you can see channels, whatever they like, they can say that.
So that means that there's freedom over here. I think
Freedom
rather
of
than
speech,
controlling,
yes,
I think rather than controlling, but obviously, sir, it's a process. For any developed country to be in comparison with a country which is developing, which is still struggling, the economy is struggling. I think there are a lot of things that will come
Oh, yes.
with time.
Right.
But in addition to this, what you have actually kind of spoken about is, I'm going to give you a wonderful example. Now imagine that people love Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce kind of costs around $600,000. And most of the people would never know that Rolls Royce is being owned by BMW. And most of the 7 Series parts of BMW are actually installed in a Rolls Royce. 75% of those parts are being installed in that. Now imagine that a BMW 7 Series costs around $100,000, right? Now there's a difference of $500,000 just because of the fact that they were so good with branding that those 2 R's which are in front of the car kind of urges us or kind of pushes us to pay an extra $500,000, right? Now that's the power of marketing. That's good. So anybody and everybody can pick up, we are being purchased into that. I'm not going to kind of negate that impact as well, that most of the time whenever we listen to manifestos, some things will touch our heart. There's always an emotional card. Unfortunately, there's been a religious card as well. So this is something that we've all seen, right? Now, how do you think, okay, that's one thing, you can be politically affiliated with whatever you want. I can do that too. But how do you think that we can come down to a point where we respect each other's affiliation, do not abuse the leadership of whatever affiliation that you have, and do not question what they have done in 5 years, why are you still kind of chasing them and whatnot? Let's do, because you have, by the end of the day, it's you and your vote. By the end of the day, it's me and my vote. So whoever is going to have whatever understanding, we can do that. What's the debate for?
Exactly. So I think that we have made the the difference of opinion so personal. That is a basic fault or problem. So you are sitting there, I'm sitting here. We can see these flowers from different point of view. You have your own point of view. You might say, oh, that is the white one is so good, or that is not.
The white one's for friendship, the red one's for love, the pink one's for parents.
Whatever it is. I mean, you have a point of view.
Right.
You can watch where you stand the way it is, and I can see the same thing in a different way. So we both could be right.
Yeah.
The thing is, we need to accept that, okay, we can debate, we can try to convince, but at a certain point of time, we should learn that we need to conclude this discussion.
Why do we feel the need to convince, sir? Why do we feel the need to convince the other person?
Yeah,
basically. Or do you think that there needs to be this element of our personality where we feel like, you know, that we need to convince him. Not just that, you know, what we do is that we kind of want to overpower. कि जो हूँ मैं कह रहा ना, वही गाल मरनी.
That is true. I mean, we want our own opinion to be implemented to the other people, and that is where we are
trying to prove something psychologically.
That's very natural.
No, that is fine, but there should be a point where we say, okay, fine. Now I'm not convinced. Sorry, you say I'm not convinced. Fine. Now you have your own vote. I have my own vote. I can go and poll it to my favorite one. You can do the same, and that is actually the way or the principle of life. And whoever wins, it's fine. But if your candidate wins and my candidate loses, it does not mean that the life ends there. I mean, this is fine. This is a process.
Okay.
It can be right or wrong. The problem in our country remained that we have actually spoiled the trust of the people.
Okay.
You know. There were so many manipulations.
Very inner layer of the...
Exactly. There are always manipulation, I can say that. Even US elections, you can see.
Of course.
I mean, there are always manipulations. It's part of life. Sometimes state thinks different way, like the people think. They have right to do certain manipulations. But the thing is that we as a Pakistani nation are involved so much into details. I mean, when we are spending out of 24 hours, say 16 hours discussing politics, discussing, you know, those things which are out of our scope.
Exactly.
That is our problem.
But sir, when we talk about political tolerance, of course I get your point that birds of feather flock together, and you find a lot of people discussing politics, and like-minded people like to sit together and explore their conversations, because obviously it feels good if someone is validating your point of view, right? But then again, we have also another interesting aspect that emerged particularly in this election is that how the social media or the phenomenon of social media is leading to more political awareness. So for example, generations like Generation Z or the millennials, we are seeing that they are changing or unsettling the old status quo out there, because lots of people went out there to express their right to vote, and they were going out there, and this is all because of the social media. And obviously we do feel that there's lots of political intolerance which is fueled by the social media, fragmentation, polarization, but at the same time there's lots of awareness, because people were aware who to vote and who not to vote based on their manifestos, based on their campaignings. So what are your views about it?
I think the social media itself is not a problem.
Yes.
The problem is how we utilize that, how we actually invest money into it, and then make an opinion. So as you said, it has created a lot of awareness among people.
Yes, yes.
So I have seen people coming out even at this elections, you know, going for polls and so on.
They were flocking. There was so much
and say
yes.
in 90% cases it was so
overwhelming response.
Overwhelming response, as well as it's very peaceful.
Yes.
So they were talking about, you know, in the queue.
Vote, yes.
They talk about their favorite candidates, but I've never seen an argument among people. So it created an awareness. On the other hand, as I said, people are investing money. So it's easy. You don't need to go to somebody's house and make an opinion. You just need to make a tweet or something. So they are not giving up. So they should, I think they should stop investing money after the election is over. So it can only create an uncertainty or political instability. So I believe in one thing, that is that we are a wonderful nation. We have lots of potential. However, we cannot develop ourselves until unless the political instability is resolved. So this is no country can afford that.
But
right?
if for example, you know, while we talk about political instability, see, you know, it's not because of the people that the political instability will exist. You know, it is because of those political parties, because they wanted instability, because they wanted people to come out on streets. They wanted people to, you know, kind of chant slogans, you know. So imagine that, you know, when you follow a leader blindly, because unfortunately we do not have a culture of a lot of research. Now imagine that for whoever has been a part of the government, nobody would ever talk about, okay, you know, this is how much the economy actually was better or worsened. You know, we would never speak about how much corruption has taken place. We would never speak about all of these things which will characterize whether a government was good or not. Now imagine the two people coming together and arguing where they do not know anything about the kind of performances that any individual has given. Now that's something which actually hurts me the most. That, okay, let's talk about figures, let's speak with logic, and that's something that we kind of miss out on. So
I think that is also happening. No, you can't generalize it that it's not happening. So I don't think so. We are underestimating the power of people a lot, because in this election we have seen how they've flocked out, right? So we can't say that the people are stupid out there. They know exactly what is going on.
And actually, what you said,
what I was talking about.
Actually, what you said is complemented in my way. What you said. The thing is that political leadership actually makes so many over promises during their campaign. When they lose, they need a face saving in front of their own voters, right? So therefore, instead of giving up or saying, okay, we accept whatever happened, they try to justify themselves in front of their voters, right? And that is again, as you said, is the power of the voters. This is the influence. So it should happen, but to a certain limit. The problem is we actually did not define our limits. I usually say that every nation has a limit. Unfortunately, we do not have any limit. We do not have any line we say we will not go below that. So these lines we need to define. The thing is, it is a process, as you said. And process, to me, is a problem in Pakistan, because I usually give an example, and that is very suitable. When you take a glass of water and put some dust into it and just shake it, it is all dirty, right? And if you put it on the table, after some time dust will start going down, settling down, right? But if you every 5 minutes take it and just shake it, it will never settle down. So this is our problem. We never let it settle down. Let the process take its own way. Running water is always clean. So if you block it, it will never be clean. So let the process go on, move on, and then of course you should have your boundaries, but never shake it again and again.
But then again, sir, like Shehzad mentioned, that we have political parties, and that when we talk about polarization, fragmentation, obviously the rhetoric coming from the top is a factor that is causing that. But then again, do you believe it's just the political parties or the top leadership which is creating that, or do we need to teach this culture in our households too? For example, if we see in a typical household, so the father is the authority, or a male figure is a patriarch, is an authority, and we are in our culture, we are encouraged not to question their authority, right? So in a way that also stifle the critical thinking skills, right? So because kids are curious, they're constantly asking the questions, and at one point we have listened to this, that you're being disrespectful when you're questioning it, right? And I do feel that also that creates and that's a budding problem, because that creates a political intolerance in that sense. So do you also feel that this culture at the household level also needs to change? Because if you want to instill or encourage political tolerance, then we also need to implement it in a household level, at the basic unit level.
I always remember one of my teacher who always says that आप शरारत कर सकते हो, बदतमीजी नहीं कर सकते. So we need to learn this basic thing. You can have an argument even at house, but even no organization can work if there is not one leader. So once the decision has been made, you have to follow that. So this is a culture that unfortunately is we are getting away from.
And do you see a change?
It's a cultural change as well.
Right.
But the thing is, I mean, there is no tolerance in the elder house leader of the house.
Or no acceptance.
Don't say anything, And the same way, there's a sort of disrespect. We are following American culture. हमारे बच्चे ना, they're following American culture. They want to say everything.
Oh yes.
In our culture, we are a little bit traditional.
Particular about respect.
Exactly. Yes. So this will happen. But the thing is, we need to, again, as I said, set some limits. Okay, you can argue, but there should be a limit end to this argument, and let's conclude it.
And so people should know when to open their mouth. We have such big mouths. We do not see whether it's somebody's wedding. We do not see whether it's somebody's funeral. We do not kind of acquaint ourselves to the sensitivity of whatever or whichever place we are. That's one thing. But to kind of wrap it up, sir, now very quickly. There's one last thing which I'm going to talk about, and that is that unfortunately, sir, I think that we feel that we have this leverage of saying whatever we feel like, because we have seen our political leadership do that. We have seen them hurling abuses to each other. We have seen them throwing glasses. We have seen them, saying such bad stuff on live television, that is something that we would have never wanted to kind of witness. Now that's something that it needs to kind of have a trickle down effect, and any leader, you know, if they have such blind following and massive following, because all the political parties have massive following, if they for once are have started to be polite and ask their followers to be polite, and you know, whenever the conversation is taking place, just keep your comments to yourself, I think that there will be a change. Do you think that there will be a change?
There must be a code of conduct for the leadership.
True.
From the state. You cannot say everything which is not aligned to the culture. You know, you cannot abuse someone on the media. That this code of conduct is missing from the state, from, you know, the institutions, unfortunately, and until unless it does not happen, we cannot stop it. So you cannot allow any leader to sit on the national media and say
whatever
abusive words against the opponents. So we need to set up certain rules. Once it happens, then the people following that leadership, of course, will adopt that.
Exactly. And I think it is also the heavy responsibility on the media houses, because we are working in a one that to make sure that if such sort of things happen, then they do not exploit it for the sake of sensationalism or for the sake of garnering lot of views that will also pull in a lot of advertising, because it is also their responsibility to implement their ethics and moral codes. And one thing that stands out in this entire conversation is that a lot of time when we are arguing or when we are listening to the arguments, we are doing for the sake of winning that argument, because it makes us feel good, it makes us validated. We are not listening for the sake of learning, right? So if you change your perspective, instead of winning that argument, if you just want to listen, or if you just want to learn out of that entire conversation, I think we can instill a lot of political tolerance and a lot of stability, and we can regulate our emotions very well in
exactly.
that,
And
right?
one way of doing it, ladies and gentlemen, where we talk about charter of democracy, where we talk about charter of economy, I think code of conduct happens to be one of those solutions for all of us as well. With that, we're heading out towards a short break. Just one last message on this topic, and that is that, you know, most of the time you will come across people who will say that, you know, whatever comes to my heart, you know, I just say it to people. Now imagine that if it's a bad thing to say, or God forbid, if the other person is not going to feel good about it, please keep that comment to yourself as well. You know, we're heading out towards a short break, because when we come back, we will be joined by the champions of argument, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be talking about what rights do we have as Pakistani citizens, which we might not know. Imagine that you were going on a road, a police guy stopped you. Are you supposed to stop? If he or she asks you to kind of, you know, sir, we're going to check your vehicle, or we're going to check you, do we really allow them to do that? Or what should we do as Pakistani citizens? What are our rights? More on this, ladies and gentlemen, after a short break. Good morning. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ji.
Thank you. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us once again. So we are going to talk about the inheritance rights and the legal issues which Shehzad alluded to before going on to the break, because obviously as a citizens you should be aware of what are your rights and responsibilities, because there is a social contract between you and the state, and how that social contract plays out, and what are exactly, so we are trying to create in generally awareness amongst the public. So what are your particular rights? And obviously there is one particular important topic which stands out in this entire conversation is the women inheritance right. So obviously according to the Islamic law, women have a very good and a nice and very defined frame of laws out there in which they can inherit their properties from their fathers, and how does that play out in the state? But obviously as a state we see that there are lots of malpractices happening across Pakistan, where we see that they are deprived of their very defined right, particularly in Islam and also in the Constitution of Pakistan. So how does that play out? We are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be the expert in this particular field. He is also the lawyer of the Supreme Court. We are very glad that we have been joined by Khwaja Azhar Rashid Saab. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much.
Walaikum salam.
So sir, please enlighten us about what are the rights of the women, and especially when we approach the topic of inheritance, because we do see that these malpractices going on in lots of parts of the country where women are married to, I mean, very off sort of a things, for example, trees, so in terms of protecting their property so that they don't go out there. So what are exactly the laws out there in the Constitution of Pakistan?
You see, this is a very pertinent question that you have asked, that what are exactly the laws available in Pakistan. So we have, first of all, I would like to mention that in Pakistan we have first the Islamic law,
Of course.
and then the laws of the state.
True.
Unfortunately, in Pakistan, women have been deprived of their rightful
Right.
share in the property of their fathers. Now, the law would say that a son is entitled to one share and a daughter is entitled to half of the
Yes.
share.
Yes. Yes.
But what we have devised a very ingenious sort of a contraption where we gift away, the father would gift away his property to his son or sons.
Oh, right.
So this is excluding the daughters from the inheritance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the opening of succession, on the death of the father, the daughters do not inherit, do not succeed
In securing their
in
rights.
securing their whatever the rights are.
But sir, this is something which I came to know. I am not sure whether it's correct or not, and you can correct me on this. And they said that that whatever the father might write in his inheritance or
Will,
whatever
right.
will. So what happens is that you can challenge it, unfortunately, after the demise of that particular person as well, because it needs to be done religiously.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. It is the opening of succession happens when the father dies,
Okay.
and then somebody who has been sort of excluded, he or she would go to the court and say that I have been excluded from the property of my father, so give me my share. Now, we have two laws regarding that. There is a law which says that, and both of those laws I would first say, just to enlighten all the audience over here,
Sure.
that those two laws deal with opening of succession. Now, if some girl, if a daughter is disinherited before the opening of succession, before the death of her father, by virtue of a preferential gift, then there is no question of those laws coming into operation,
Okay.
those two laws,
Okay.
because at the time of the death of her father, she is
Neither
nowhere.
Yeah.
She is not the legal heir. She is not going to inherit anything from him.
Okay.
Now, practically,
And that cannot be challenged as well?
that can be challenged, true, and our courts have been very proactive in giving
Granting
their
the-
share, in giving the share of daughters to any daughter who approaches the court.
Wonderful.
You see, the law is settled that whenever a daughter comes to the court saying that I should be given a share of my father's property, she is nonetheless, regardless of the technicalities, law is settled that she would be granted her share in the property.
Wonderful.
Right. Right.
But you see, what is a preferential gift? Preferential gift is that where I would, as a father, I would exclude some of my children, like daughters, and give away all my property to
One of the child.
one of the children or two of the sons. And that is like, it's also called a case of exclusion, that you exclude some of your. You see, in Islam, there is no concept of आँख.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
इस्लाम में
Yes.
आप किसी को आँख नहीं कर सकते.
That's
मम्मी
true.
अब्बू बाजार में तड़ी एक ही
Right.
होती है ना सर.
तो आँख नहीं, when
they're
you
angry,
cannot
you know.
do that, so how can you sort of exclude your
True.
children
course,
from your
of course.
property?
Of course.
So this is a very important, and you see the daughters are married off to different faraway parts. For example, a daughter is married off to Sindh,
Yeah.
and she is living in Sindh. Now our law is that regarding the share of the property, you are going to sue or file the case in the place where the property is situated.
Okay.
Oh.
So you have to come and then.
You, from the Sindh, she has to come all the way to Punjab and file the suit. Now, that does not give a latitude for a lot of financial independence. I mean, you need to have a lot of resources to go and sue in another province or another place where that person who is holding the property would be very influential.
Right.
And he has all the resources
And I'm pretty sure that as a lawyer, you've seen a lot of such cases being played out. But sir, we are particularly and predominantly talking about the rights of the Muslims and what are the Islamic Sharia laws that define that. But also let's talk about people who are non-Muslims and minorities. How do their rights, particularly as a woman, roll out, and what is their, how does the Constitution guarantee or protects their right as a woman?
You see, as far as Constitution is concerned, it is very clear in the Constitution that there would be no discrimination on the basis of gender.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So, woman, whether she is a Hindu or a Muslim, she cannot be excluded from the property rights. Now, why I'm emphasizing property rights? Because property rights would give you financial independence to cope with things, to cope with life. If a woman is not empowered financially, she stands nowhere. She won't be able to get all her fundamental rights, like right to employment, right to having a profession of her own. So this is a thing which is affecting 50% of your population, or more than 50% of your population. So what we need to do is, I'm grateful to your forum, and I would suggest that there is a way out of it.
How, sir?
There is a way out of it. And we need to, government needs to be there for the people, because if there is going to be a preferential gift, for example, I'm going to give away my property to my son, excluding my daughter or other children, then it should be mandatory for me to go to the registrar to getting that preferential gift registered with the registrar.
Okay.
And the registrar should be given the power to reject the registration of that gift if that gift does not disclose valid reasons for exclusion of the daughters.
No, sir, but with valid reasons, the dialogue is going to be too lengthy then.
Yeah. What are the valid reasons?
Yep.
That they should also be defined by law, that the registrar would be performing this in this realm, and these are the guiding guidelines for these these validity of the gift. And for example, he forgets about everything and then he allows the registration of the gift. That gift nonetheless would always be challenged before the courts.
Okay.
Right.
So it does not really matter, so even if it was a preferential gift, it can still be challenged.
You see, preferential gifts are normally made through oral transactions, oral gifts.
Ki Abba ji ne kya si?
Abba ji ne kar dita.
Kya si? Yeah.
Abba ji ne kar dita, so this is mine.
Yeah.
So that is how it operates.
So if it's in written, how do you think? Now let's talk
written
from
and
the
plus
other perspective.
registered.
Yeah, but let's talk from the other perspective. Now imagine that there were genuine reasons. The other children were well-to-do. There was harmony amongst all the siblings as well, and they decided that okay, if you want to gift it to him or her or whoever, you can do that. Now imagine if that happened orally and if it happened on paper and with the registrar. So now let's talk about that father who wanted to gift something to his children or one of the child. How do you think he can protect that?
Or maybe a child is needy or deserving or special care, so that child needs protection in terms of
the relationship was so amazing.
I mean there's so many reasons.
That is why I'm saying that the reasons have to be there
for
the exclusion of other kids.
Yep. But you're saying that it can always be challenged.
It can always be challenged. You see, the gift is a sort of a weak thing to defend in courts.
Okay.
Okay.
It's always like, especially preferential gifts.
But now, sir, let's move on.
Yeah, we've seen that in recent times, unfortunately. But please.
Yes, so now we've seen, especially in terms when we talk about the family issues, or I mean the divorces, which are very common nowadays, right? Or I mean generally, so what sort of issues we face when we talk about inheritance and whatnot. So let's talk about one of the very wonderful initiatives, which is the ADR centers, right?
Yep.
Across the, I mean not across the Pakistan, but generally we have seen that they are being implemented in major cities of Pakistan.
True.
So how has that helped the underprivileged and the marginalized communities of Pakistan, particularly who can't afford the lawyers because they have a hefty fee, and then obviously the court takes a lot of time to settle these issues,
and expensive as well.
And obviously justice delayed is justice denied, right? So if you want to give awareness to people out there, can you define the success story of the ADR centers?
Yeah, that's the ADR system is going to lessen the burden on our courts first, and secondly, they are going to cut away the expenses that people are going to incur.
True.
Of course.
And thirdly, it's an efficient system. It's a shortcut system, and you see, a trained ADR person would always resolve the dispute within a very short time.
Exactly.
And that is going to impact the society as a whole. And people should know that they don't always go to the court for resolving their disputes. And
Right.
first they can go to a ADR center, file a complaint over there, and they would be not facing as much trouble as it is in the courts.
Exactly, and I was there myself, sir, when the ADR centers were being
Right.
launched, and I was at the law ministry, and I spoke with all of these trainers, which actually flew all the way from UK. They were operating
Right.
all over the globe as well, and it was wonderful to see, you know. And whenever we are to talk about alternate dispute resolution, now what happens is that obviously you're leaving out a window that, okay, I'm ready to talk, I'm willing to talk, let's sit down. But as soon as you go to a court and someone is being summoned, you know, I don't think that there's any space of that window left behind. Just go, you know, we used to talk, you know,
For reconciliation.
ladai ho gayi hai.
Obviously,
You know,
the-
something like that.
it is
with court-
adversarial.
yeah, with court, that's how the sentiment is. But very quickly, sir, towards the end, because we were speaking about, you know, inheritance rights and whatnot about women. Now, I happen to have a lot of friends, you know, from the Punjab belt, and what I've witnessed over there, it's a very common phenomena, and I kind of always very vocal about it with my friends, but they don't like it, so I really have to be
Right.
quiet at times as well. Now, imagine that whenever they're marrying their sisters or daughters, what they do is that they say that, you know, that we give so much in dowry that she will not have any share in what sort of property our father is going to leave behind. Now, when we speak of dowry, imagine it's going to be a latest car, brand new car. I've seen it, I'm a witness to that. It's going to be 5, 6, 10 cows, you know, so gold probably worth of crores of rupees. And then they say that, you know, and they understand that now my sister or my daughter does not have any right in whatever property I'm going to leave behind. Can that be challenged in the court too?
This cannot be a valid reason for exclusion of the daughters.
Okay.
You see, whatever a person would say that I have given enough to mother, it is never enough.
True.
You see, property, immovable property, is for life. That share is for life. Now you are giving dowry in the shape of whatever, gold or
Yeah.
whatever you are giving her. That is a transitory sort of a thing.
Okay.
But you see, she needs a permanent source of income.
Exactly.
Of course.
That cannot be denied to, at
anyone.
least in my opinion, that cannot be denied to a daughter.
And it should not be denied in any way.
And you see, a
Right.
daughter is even otherwise the weaker gender. I'm sorry for that.
Of course, women are marginalized.
Underprivileged.
Yes, yes.
Underprivileged right from the day one. So she needs special protection.
True. True. That's true. And I think we would certainly want parents to be well aware of this as well. But thank you so much, sir,
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
with
Thank
us.
you.
Lovely to be in conversation with, you know, whenever
Right.
you're going to be in conversation with somebody who represents in the Supreme Court, that's exactly how, you know,
arguments roll
jaw
out,
dropping.
right?
It's
Yes.
jaw dropping. It's going to be, you know, the level they speak, you know, how they speak and how they kind of manifest about things and build them into arguments is something which is always beautiful. I've been a fan of it. But thank you so much, sir,
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
with us. Lovely to be in
Thank you so
conversation
much.
with you, and for everybody who's out there. Ladies and gentlemen, more than, you know, how responsible we feel in making sure that we spread such sort of awareness, I think it's about the awareness of the parents too as well. Now imagine that, you know, that somebody who is from you in the first place and that you're not trying to protect them in the life where you won't be around. I think that it happened because I, alhamdulillah, happen to be father to 3 lovely daughters, and I think about them all through the day, you know. So either it's my parents or either it's my daughters. That's all I'm thinking.
Right.
And I would want people to do that. Imagine that. I think that daughters would always be doing more than what the sons can do. You know, I'm a son to my parents too as well, and I still think that my daughters are always, you know, a step ahead. So I think that everybody needs to kind of play a role, come together, and it's all about providing that social security to your children. You know, so may it be your son or may it be your daughter. Please make sure that you do that. Until next time, look after yourselves.
1, 2, 3. Good
It's a
morning.
good morning.